watch what's happening in the United States right now, I am I'm beside myself. I'm absolutely beside myself. And this is not me coming forward and saying the Republicans, the Democrats, uh, whatever. Put a title wherever you want to put the title. But the problem that we have right now in humanity, okay, we're watching it. I'm watching it here in the US, but I'm also watching what's happening in Iran. I've also been watching what has been happening in Israel and Gaza. Okay, this has got to stop. Absolutely has to stop. There is no difference what I'm seeing right now. There is no difference of what's happening right now than what happened in World War II. Okay. What it hasn't been categorized yet is a world war. And I don't want it to get to that point. And I'm not trying to say anything to ignite anger or discouragement or further resentment unnecessarily. I mean, the resentment that people hold for one another is completely unnecessary. And it's amazing to me how many churches. Okay, I grew up in the church and then I became an atheist. So I remember hearing God is love, God this, and we're going to help this and we're going to help that. You know, when I think back on my NDE, I remember having to watch the Native Americans being slaughtered in the 1100s. I remember having to watch World War II, and I remember having to watch the Civil Rights Movement, all while I was sitting next to Jesus. Okay. So this was very difficult. And what I find to be very difficult about World War II specifically, actually all of it, because they all threaded the same message that I watched. Every one of them threaded the message that humanity did nothing. And I sat there and I cried and I was completely beside myself as I watched people justify why they couldn't step in or justify why they were going to make the decisions that they made. We cannot, we cannot afford, no one can afford to have another world war happen. So let's all wake up right now to the responsibility that we have as a collective to pursue and seek out peaceful, systematic lessons and teachings, of which I have, by the way, about the structure of love. Put these into effect right now. Let's start reminding one another of what our history consists of. Okay. Now, getting back to religion, 1963, Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. wrote a letter from the Birmingham, Alabama jail. Okay. He was pointing out, one of the things that he pointed out was how the religious leaders were not stepping up for him. And as I was reading that, I had never read it before. And I thought, oh my God, I can't believe this. Well, I'm going to say why. Because he was Black. That's why. Yeah. And you know what? That's why nobody else stood up in World War II, before World War II. Why didn't those people who were witnessing the insanity of Hitler, why didn't they step forward and say, yeah, he's got to be monitored. We've got to mark him as dangerous because he's spouting off all of this stuff. He's a very angry man. But no, he was somebody who stepped up and convinced enough people that he was in charge and that he was going to dominate. Okay. And until everyone, including those in Germany, until everyone was directly affected, nothing changed. Everybody had to step in and correct it. It's just tragic. It is so incredibly tragic to witness on social media what I'm witnessing, people being pulled out of cars, stormtroopers. Just go back to Star Wars. I get it, what George Lucas was writing. Okay. That was in 1975, 76. Go back, pay attention to the storyline. Okay. Stormtroopers are assaulting people. Look at our history. Civil rights movement, World War II, Native Americans. Everyone was assaulted. Everyone was destroyed. And you know what? The destruction was never corrected. People were so traumatized by what happened and silenced over and over and over again that the correction could never happen. So a deeper understanding of what the core issue is has never been addressed. And I'm telling you, this is about love. This is about not recognizing who we are to one another. It's so incredibly important that right now, rather than get more violent and create more fear in the world, that we calmly step together and say, all right, let's make this right. Let's do this peacefully. Let's use our voices, as some have been displaying that they are doing. Let's use our voices effectively. This is not to harm anyone. This is just to get a new semblance of order so that we can continue in our lives in peace. Because for anybody, and I've seen some posts where people in the world are upset about, being basically inconvenienced by what the current sitting president in the United States is doing. Well, trust me, it's an inconvenience here. It's an inconvenience. It's an inconvenience for everyone. But the inconvenience doesn't start with this one individual, okay? And it doesn't just start in one populace. It doesn't just start in one religion. This is a we thing, okay? So if you think that being in Australia, like one of the writers that I read, if you think that you're being inconvenienced, yeah, everybody is. Everyone is. So if you don't want your life to be stopped, you just want to go on and pay your bills, you want to take care of your kids, you want to go, have all of your privileges, well, that's great. But you know what? We're all missing the point if we can't see that we have to make sure that everyone is afforded these privileges. Everyone deserves these privileges to live in peace, to know what love is, to know what it's like, to not have to walk out the door and wonder if you're going to be bombed, okay? Wonder if you're going to be killed going to pick your child up at school. Wonder if you're going to get sprayed while you're out peacefully protesting. This is insane, and this has got to stop. So I wish that everyone would go back and look at our already historical patterns that have happened. Okay, we can't turn away from what has happened. We need to re-examine what has happened and then ask ourselves, how did it get there? Because guess what? We're in the same position right now. And that is the truth. So we need to readjust our frame of mind. And we need to encourage one another to look out for one another. It doesn't matter where you are in the world. My prayers are for all of us here in the United States. My prayers are for everyone in Iran, everyone in Gaza, everyone everywhere, because these people who are leading, quote unquote, leading, okay, these countries and these states, we didn't all sign up for. Okay? You have to think about this because I watched this in my near-death experience. This is no joke. People got in, pushed their way in. Okay? No. Do I agree with force and brutality and war? No. You know what? I really would rather that we go back to the 1960s where we look at the premise of peace through love and make sure that equality is for everyone. Everyone. What Dr. King did here in the United States doesn't mean that in England or in Australia or in Iran that you shouldn't have justice and equality. You absolutely should. So, as a collective, as a world that we're all living together, we're all sharing it, we need to re-examine how it is that we show up every day and what our intentions are for everyone. We need to include everyone, not just some, not just the financially well off and, oh, I'm going to go buy an island over here, or, I'm not being affected. It's not directly affecting me. Well, no, it's not perhaps yet. And that's the whole point. You don't want it to get to the yet, right? Because you're relying on whatever you're relying on. But you're just as responsible for what happens as the rest of us. So everyone's responsible for what's happening. No one's immune to it. Because whether it's happening in your backyard, in your front yard, in 2 states away, or 3 miles down the road, it's happening everywhere because we're all witnessing it, all witnessing how these traumas are being lived at this time. And it's absolutely the most tragic thing. So let's all just correct it. And I'm just going to keep talking about my NDE, and I'm going to keep reminding people that, you know what? We're all accountable for how love gets translated in our lives. And that's the truth. Love is not a religion. I'm using religion in my sharing here because I watched how it failed to step up during World War II. It failed to step up and help Dr. King, who was all about love and peace. It failed to protect the Native Americans in the 1100s. Religion failed. Okay. But love does not fail. It just got silenced. So we can't allow that anymore. So until next time, if you have any questions, just ask.